Yesterday we started talking about verbs and the principal parts of verbs. We're going to continue talking about verbs today, and we're going to be more specific. We're going to be talking about forming verb tenses. A tense is a form of a verb that shows us the time that an action or a condition happened. You form a verb's tenses from its principal parts, which is what we learned yesterday: present, past, past participle, and present participle. First things we're going to talk about today are what are called simple tenses. The first simple tense that we'll be discussing is called the present tense. This shows us that an action or condition occurs regularly or is generally true. We can see this in our first example. Good stories transport us across time and space. This tells us that regularly or is generally true that good stories do this. Present tense also can show us that an action or condition is occurring in the present, such as, I have the new book by Stephen King. This is happening now. Also, the present tense shows us an action that occurs regularly. Our last example, every night I read several chapters of this chilling tale. That's something that's ongoing, so that is a present tense. Another simple tense is past tense. The past tense shows an action or condition occurred in the past. It's pretty self-explanatory. We have our example here. King published Carrie, his first novel, in 1974. So that obviously happened in the past. Our last simple tense is the future tense. This shows us, as you might expect, that an action or condition will occur in the future. So we have our example. I will lend you King's new book next week. So those are our simple tenses: present, past, and future. Then we move on to what's called perfect tense. We start off with the present perfect tense. This shows us that an action or a condition was completed at one or more indefinite times in the past. Now what that means is that something happened at least once at some point before now. Look at the example. King has published several books under the pen name of Richard Bachman. This tells us that it happened in the past, but not specifically when. That's present perfect tense. Present perfect tense can also show us that an action or a condition began in the past, but continues in the present. Look at our second example. King has written more than 30 novels in the last 30 years. He started in the past, but he's still doing it now. That's present perfect tense. We also have past perfect tense. Past perfect tense shows that an action or a condition in the past preceded or came before another past action or condition. Look at the example. King had written 2 novels that were rejected by publishers before he published Carrie. So Carrie happened in the past, but these other 2 novels happened before Carrie in the past. That's why we use past perfect tense. Then we have future perfect tense. Future perfect tense shows that an action or a condition in the future will precede another future action or condition. By next summer, I will have read half of King's books. So now we know there's going to be 2 things. One of them will happen in the future before the other one. So those are verb tenses. The last thing is the progressive form. The progressive form of the verb expresses an event that is still in progress. I am reading this horror story. This is the progressive form because it describes an event that is still going on. Verb tenses. These let us use various verb forms so that we can put events that we're writing about in perspective from a time situation. That way our reader knows what happened and when it happened. So it is important to understand how to use the different verb tenses.